Thank you so much for joining us today on Passion. I'm your host, Britt Ivy, and today we have with us the lovely and talented Livia Genise. Welcome, Livia.
Oh, thank you so much, Britt.
Yes, I'm so glad that you could come back on the show and talk about the first half of the 2016 season at Camelot.
I'm so happy to have the opportunity.
It's really wonderful to have you here. We always have so much fun. I have to keep my laughter down so I don't blow out the mics. And we're also going to speak about Oklahoma, which is running now.
Yes, it is, through January 10th.
Perfect. And I understand it's almost sold out.
Certainly the matinees are almost sold out.
Okay.
I think we had 4 seats left for last Sunday's matinee, and once school gets out, I think the rest of the run's going to sell out as well.
I agree. I agree. And last night was Director's Night.
Yes, it was. We do that for each of our 7 main stage shows. The audience is invited to stay afterwards. We bring the director up and maybe some of the designers if they're in the house. And the audience gets to ask questions of the director. And in this case, in Oklahoma, she was also our choreographer, Rebecca Campbell, and then the actors as well. It was wonderful.
Oh, how fun. How long did they keep the director there asking questions?
I think it went about 40 minutes after the show, and the show's 2.5 hours at least, 2 hours and 40 minutes. So that was really nice. They stayed and they had lots of wonderful questions.
Excellent. How fun that must be.
It is.
I've not made a Director's Night. I think that would be a fun night.
It's really interesting. People have some great questions. They were especially asking about Oklahoma, and we were talking about how it changed the course of musical theater when it came out in the 40s. Because it took, before then, songs were just kind of inserted into the script, but Oklahoma, between the way that Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein wrote it, and the way Agnes DeMille choreographed it, all of the songs, all of the dances moved the story forward. And it can be a little bit of a dark story because it was about the territories of Oklahoma becoming a state. And in some cases, they had to move people like the Native Americans that were there out of the way so they could let the Sooners come in and claim the territory.
Right. So it does get dark at times, but it really did change the face of musical theater.
And it won a Pulitzer Prize because it was so groundbreaking.
Fantastic. And that was in 1943.
Right.
And the songs and the dances actually started moving the action forward in the play, and then they developed that as plays continued.
Well, that's pretty much became the way to do the musicals, and now, of course, they're changing again.
Yeah, the way to do it.
And the one that we're doing at the end of 2016 is also by Rodgers and Hammerstein, and it also won a Pulitzer, and that's South Pacific, but that's a year from now.
Right, right. Well, in about 6 months, we'll have you on to talk about the second half.
That would be great.
Yeah, I loved South Pacific as a kid.
Oh,
we had more fun watching and hamming around to South Pacific.
Well, it's also still pretty pertinent because it's about wartime, and there's an incredible song in South Pacific that pretty much says you've got to be taught to hate. And it's something that we're taking a look at right now in our own politics, the balance between fear and hate, and which is going to win out.
Right.
Hopefully neither one.
Hopefully love will win out of the whole thing.
That's, yep.
I have a friend whose motto in life is love everybody, never hurt anybody.
Right.
And that's kind of the opposite of some things going on over there in the Middle East right now. At any rate, we are going to a clip of Oklahoma
I'm so pleased, yes. Grace Peets is in this clip as Lori. She's our ingenue in the show. Okay. And the wonderful thing about Grace is when she was a teenager, she went through our conservatory for 2 years. She would come in from out of town, stay with her grandparents, go through all the classes, and then she came back as an SOU student.
Perfect.
And now she lives here. And so we have this incredibly gorgeous, talented woman with this beautiful voice, and we get to have her as Lori in Oklahoma.
Perfect.
So I think this song is called Many a New Day.
It is.
It's Lori and all the ladies in the cast.
Okay, wonderful. Well, when we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit about your directing. So first we'll show the audience this lovely clip, and we will go ahead into the Oklahoma clip at this time. Thank you.
Why should a woman who is healthy and strong blubber like a baby if a man goes away, a weeping and a wailing how he's done her wrong? That's one thing you'll never hear me say. Never gonna think that the man I lose the only man among men. I'll snap my fingers to show I don't care. I'll buy me a brand new dress to wear. I'll scrub my neck and I'll brush my hair and start all over again. Many a new face will please my eye. Many a new love will find me. Never have I once looked back to a sigh over the romance behind me. Many a new day will dawn before I do. Many a lad that may kiss and fly, a kiss gone by is bygone. Never have I asked an August sky, where has last July gone? Never have I wandered through the rye, wondering where has some guy gone. Many a new day will dawn before I do. Many a new face will please my eye. Many a new love will find me. Never have I once looked back to sigh over the romance behind me. Many a new day will dawn before I do. Never have I chased the honeybee who carelessly cajoled me. Somebody else just as sweet as he cheered me and consoled me. Never have I wept into my tea over the deal someone told me. Many a new day will dawn. Many a red sun will set.
director.
That was amazing. Oh, I'm like, wow, this was amazing. How fun was that?
It's wonderful.
It was just so fun and happy and lovely, and the costumes are great, and the dancing, I understand, 6 days a week?
6 days a week. In fact, we had to do the show last night without one of our dancers. There's a ballet at the end of Act One that's a dream ballet, and there's this whole can-can section, and one of our dancers pulled a muscle.
Oh, no.
And she was ready to go on last night, and instead they spent the half hour before we let the audience in redoing all of the lifts and things so that they had a substitute. One of the other girls do all of her lifts, and we sent, her name was Josette, we sent Josette home and said, take off 3 performances and then come back next Tuesday and your muscle will probably be fine.
Yeah. Showbiz.
I know,
Showbiz.
I know. You have to be ready
no
to punt.
understudies for every part, right?
Well, we do have understudies, but they don't go on very often, but they we have had them go on. Last year with Fiddler on the Roof, the gentleman who was playing Tevye, David Gabriel, had something go wrong with his eye, and his doctor said, you cannot do anything or you could lose your vision. And so we had to...
I remember that.
Yes, and so the gentleman who plays Curly in Oklahoma, who happens to be a music theater buff and a wonderful performer, he knew all the songs, but he had to go on with script, and he went on the entire last week as Tevye. Of course, he was 40 years too young, but you know, whatever. Put the beard on him, put the hat,
Showbiz.
put the costume.
I love
it's showbiz.
It. Great. Well, I find that's just lovely. So
Thank
I
you.
hope I can sneak in there before every single
closes,
ticket is gone.
Right.
Before we talk about Solomon's Blade,
Okay.
I want to discuss your acting or your directing a little bit, because I did a little snooping around, and your actors love to work with you.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
And one of the main reasons, of course, is your rehearsal schedule. You're such a perfectionist, and we're going to show in the studio. Please get ready to show a clip, a close-up of Livia's rehearsal schedule. It's like an encyclopedia minimized on a couple sheets of paper.
Well, I started out with conservatories, directing conservatories of 60 kids in a summer camp. And you can't have, some places do this. I don't think it's the right thing to do. Some places will say, bring a book and you'll sit around. Right. I believe that every single moment that you're there, you need to be used and you need to be learning. And that's kind of how we go into productions at Camelot. Pretty much everybody who directs or choreographs is also a teacher. And we have people of varying levels of training. There, and I want to make sure that if people make a 12-week commitment, which is what a musical is,
Correct.
And with the Christmas show, 6 performances a week, that I don't waste their time during rehearsal. So I put together a really comprehensive schedule. It tells exactly when I'm going to call you, when you're going to be released, and with Solomon's Blade, the show that is the first main stage show after the holidays, I had 2 days to block the entire show, 117 pages.
You did all that in 2 days.
I finished 4 minutes early because I know how to utilize the time, and after years of directing, I kind of know how to talk to people and get what I need from them. And that was just to get the blocking, and we did some basic acting, you know, planting a seed, as they always say, oh, you're planting a seed, right. To get them to think about things, because we don't go back into rehearsal till January 2nd, and we open February 3rd.
Okay.
And these are people with day jobs.
Right.
I mean, everybody at Camelot, this is not how they make their living.
Right.
So,
right. What dedication.
And half the cast is in Oklahoma, so I could only get them for a certain amount of time.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Well, that's your reputation.
Passion. It's all passion. It's doing what you
go.
passionately want to do with your life.
Love it.
Someone at the talkback last night said, okay, how many of you people, because there's 28 in the cast, how many of you people want to pursue this as a profession? And almost every single person raised their hand, but we do have some people who are in their 50s and 60s who've already been doing, you know, this.
For
it's
years.
their hobby. They choose to make their living doing other things, but they've been in the business for 40 or 50 years.
Perfect.
I can't believe I've been in it for almost 50 years as well.
That's amazing.
I know.
You're doing great. It's just amazing. I just wanted to touch on that because it really is a phenomenon of those 28 people that raised their hand that want to do this full-time with their lives, how many directors will they run across that value their time so much they won't leave them sitting around? They might not find that again, and that's your reputation. Livia doesn't leave people sitting around.
I also believe that the director's job is to create a safe space. You're asking actors to totally open their hearts and be vulnerable. And so you have to create a space that's safe for them to do that. And I totally, there's a little wall hanging in my house that says, courage is the willingness to be afraid and act anyway.
I love it.
And I tell you, the people I work with, these young people, these people who are just community members, some of whom didn't choose to pursue it in the big cities because they wanted to have a family in a small town. These people are so courageous, and they work so hard, and so it's a privilege to work with them. And I want to treat them as the gold they are.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes, that's very important. The little bit I've done, you're so out there. If you're not in a safe space, you don't want to go back.
No, you can't ask people to do it if you're not going to make the space safe.
I just made up a word, space and place. Space. Did you like that? Oh, okay.
And that's certainly one of the things we're going to have to do with Solomon's Blade because of the subject matter and because it's a very timely show. It was written actually in 2004, it won the Ashland New Plays Festival, and it's about a baby that's, the mother is brain dead from an accident. And there's a woman who's the sister-in-law of the woman who's dead. There's this baby in utero, and she wants it adopted by an Israeli family. And she can't handle another kid. She's got 3, and she's...
That's enough.
That's enough. Her husband, whose sister is brain dead, won't even have anything to do with anything. He's so stressed and so can't relate to his emotions.
Right.
So her best friend, who's a lawyer, finds an Israeli woman who lost her husband and her child, and everybody assumes that the Palestinians did it. No, she's a Palestinian, she's an Arab Israeli woman. And there's this whole thing about, are you the other? Do I have to be afraid of you?
Right.
Or are you another human being? Can we make it personal? Are you just a person?
What decade was this written?
It was written in 2004.
No
And
kidding.
it couldn't be
Amazing.
more timely. I am
Absolutely.
so proud to be doing it right now.
Well, you know what I love? The author is coming out.
She is from Idaho. She now lives in Idaho.
Amazing.
She even rewrote a section of the script because it called for an African-American male nurse, and nobody came to auditions, even though we went out of our way to publicize that.
Okay.
And so she rewrote it for a wonderful young man named Rigo Jimenez, who is in Oklahoma, and he'll be playing a Cuban-American nurse, male nurse.
Close enough.
And it turns out that Lisa Beth's husband is Mexican-American. So she rewrote the script. She chose a different song for the male nurse to sing, which is actually Latin and Sephardic Jewish roots.
Goodness.
So you would have learned it in a Jewish camp if you went away to camp. You would have learned it if you were Cuban-American. And it's about sleeping my beloved child. And that's what this baby is. And it's an incredible play. And I hope it will force people, encourage people to think.
See the humanity.
To see the humanity and not the fear.
Right.
That, because it's so debilitating and it plays into the hands of your enemy. If everybody's afraid of Muslims, then we play into the hands of our enemy.
Yeah. And just
so I care about it a lot.
No kidding. Well, you know, your plays, they're educational. The plays that you choose and that you select to be
I try to do
out
that.
there,
I try to choose
educational.
things that are educational. I also try to do things like Oklahoma or Fiddler on the Roof that are incredibly entertaining.
Fun.
The musical that follows Solomon's Blade is Sweet Charity, which Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon originally did years and years ago. It's about a taxi dancer with a heart of gold and all the wrong choices she makes falling in love with people. And it's got incredible music in it. And then we move on to, it's the 60th anniversary of Inherit the Wind, so we are bringing that play back, and that couldn't be more timely as we have people denying science and using religion instead. So there again,
and we also have people
pushing the
denying
envelope.
religion and using science to do that.
Well,
so it goes both
exactly,
ways.
exactly.
Just
so,
like the fear and the hatred that generates war and the true evil that's out there. It's not, you can't assign that to particular
well,
people.
you can't have a kumbaya moment and say we're all going to get along and love. You've got to figure out how to make that work.
Well put. I agree. I agree. So those are some powerful plays coming up.
Yes, they are.
And we've been showing the audience the postcards for the plays as you've been speaking.
Oh, good.
So
good.
that usually I announce those, but I think that's already done. So Solomon's Blade has been shown, as well as your rehearsal schedule, which, as I mentioned, is something to behold. Comprehensive. There you go. And you are directing Solomon's Blade and Sweet Charity.
Right, and then I get a
You're
little
not directing Inherit the Wind, are you?
No, I'm not. Roy Raines, who's my production manager and one of my main actors. In fact, he's in Solomon's Blade. He will be directing that.
Great.
And then Rebecca, who directed Oklahoma, will be directing La Cage aux Folles, which is our summer musical.
Okay. So that's in the second half?
Right, that's in the second half.
Great.
And the other two things that we have going on in the first half of the season are what we call our spotlights.
I love the spotlights.
Oh, the spotlights are great. And they started rehearsals today for our very first spotlight, which runs the second and third week in January. Okay. And it is Spotlight on Simon and Garfunkel. And I guess the rehearsal went magnificently. I'm really pleased about that. And then our second spotlight is in June, and that's Spotlight on Liza Minnelli.
Oh, how fun.
We have fun writing these. I always learn something new. I have a number of different people who write the scripts. Right now, Kathy Noah, who is an editor on the Tribune staff, has been writing shows for us for 2 or 3 years, and she's doing both Simon and Garfunkel and Liza Minnelli. A lot of research goes into that.
A lot of research. And, I know when Gail Wilson, my friend, goes on.
She spends about a year researching those.
Exactly.
I just had lunch with her.
Yes.
And then we have these incredible singers that are in the Rogue Valley. Somebody asked us last night at the talkback, where do you get the talent? And I said, it's right in the Rogue Valley. So we do the scripts, we have the arrangements done by local musicians, and of course we always have live musicians.
Right.
Whether it's one of the musicals that we do on the main stage. So we have 28 people in the cast of Oklahoma and 6 musicians backstage. Not a lot of room for set pieces. As you could probably see from the clip, we don't have a lot of big sets, but we have a lot of big heart on that stage.
A lot of big talent too.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, congratulations. That's amazing. I also like about the spotlights that I always learn more than I ever expected to learn. I remember in Karen Carpenter, you learn so much about their life. It's not just you show up and there are songs and you leave. You show up, you learn about a human,
people
their
are
life,
fascinated,
what they've gone through.
yes, what they've gone through. People are fascinated by the biographical information because most of it they don't know, and what they do know is usually what's been the happy stuff. It's not
or
it's
what
not
headlined on Time magazine. It's not the heart of
and
behind.
certainly not when you have somebody like Carole King or Simon and Garfunkel. What's behind how they wrote their music? Right. And I think in the brochure there's this incredible quote from both of them. Paul Simon said, "If I never loved, I never would have cried. I am a rock. I am an island." That's one of his lyrics. Wow. And Art Garfunkel said, "Everything worth doing starts with being scared." And that's
have the
that's
fear,
where
feel
you
the fear,
are
and
as
do
an
it
artist.
anyway. That's kind of how I have to deal with life, actually.
Well, we all have to.
I know.
There's no rule book. Okay, if I do this, this, and this, my life will turn out this way.
I know.
You know, we every time I choose a show and we put it on, it's like somebody said, "Can't you choose shows where you can guarantee attendance?" I said, "Great, where's my crystal ball?"
Right.
Who knew Evita would sell out, and that enabled me to do Jesus Christ Superstar, which enables me to do Chess in 2016, which is an incredible rock musical.
Forward to that.
So you just never know.
Okay. Well, there's never enough time, Livia,
I
so
know.
I'm glad that you have publicly said that you will come
I will
on for
come.
the
I
second
promise
half.
I will come back. Yeah.
Wonderful. It's just such a delight to see you and spend time with you.
Well, you're so easy to talk to,
Yeah,
Britt.
well, I appreciate what you do for the community as
Thank
well.
you.
I know that your work is beloved, and people that work with you and benefit. Your whole life is different after you've been a part of something like this, be it the musical or the spotlight. I'm sure they would testify to that, and a life-changing experience to work with you and Camelot.
I think the way that shows up is people say, "What's the next one you're going to cast me in? Can I do? What's the next spotlight I can do? How about these people?" And they come in with suggestions, and it's like, "Yeah, I can sell that," or it's like, "No, I don't think I can sell that."
Never wanting for good talent. They can't
Not
wait
at
to
all.
work with you. Wonderful.
Not at all.
Okay. Well, I think I'm being asked to wrap up this show. We always seem to want to go over.
I know.
At least I do. So thank you so much for joining us on Passion. And it's been a wonderful half hour with Livia Genise speaking about Camelot Theatre and the 2016 season, as well as Oklahoma. This will air throughout the year, so if it's past 2015, you've missed Oklahoma. So thank you so much for joining us on Passion. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.